Welcome back. Welcome back.
We're distracted because we're worried about having the same head size in the videos. We're very professional.
No, what I was caught up on was that normally I sit there and talk about how amazing the weather is in Palmerston North, the Hawaii of New Zealand, as it has been historically referred to as, but it's actually a real rainy day. But we have
Lies,
moved,
fake news.
and we are now on and we're now on tank water.
Oh
And so all
no!
of a sudden, a little bit of rainy weather fills my heart with joy when I watch when
See,
I watch the app to make sure that we're now up to 83 days worth of water
yeah,
at
it's
our
all
house.
part of the tropical climate you live in. Rain is part of the tropical climate that you live in. You know.
No, yeah, but it has allowed me to go down to the local RSA and talk to the farmers around how many milliliters of water we um had the previous night. So
Are you going to welcome anyone to school briefs, or we're just going to waffle?
welcome. And I tell you what, it has been a pretty interesting week. And I know normally we're talking just about education, and I don't know if it's just going to be a pattern because the election's coming and we would love to see some policy announced by the Labour Party. But the first part that I thought might be quite interesting to touch on was the fact that we have had the National Party exercising its own form of democracy this week by having a vote as to whether or not they would like to retain their own Prime Minister. And I think the kind of connection to education that won't catch people off guard is that poor old Chris Pink has been hung out to dry because I can tell you what, there is no way he was running numbers for a candidate that didn't exist. And so all of the kind of rumours have been running rife around who it was. Our very own Minister of Education and Chris Bishop seemed to be the kind of top two that people came back to. But very quickly, Chris Bishop was out of the gates claiming that it wasn't him. And then it has taken Erica about 5 days to front some media and say, look, it wasn't me, leaving poor old Chris Pink to carry the bag. Now, I think two things could have happened. One is that he has been promised some type of a sweet by taking the blame and not saying anything, or he hasn't, and in which fact he could be a ticking time bomb of somebody who's going to come out and talk lots about what had happened over the next couple of weeks. What was really disappointing, and something that I guess makes it not so poor old Chris Pink was that I think I saw on Twitter he's like hocking crypto now, like it's been days. And I think I saw this like ad on Twitter where he was talking about how he's just made $60,000 in crypto and that you can too. I'll put it a lot here.
Maybe it is all. I mean, he's a military man. Maybe this is all tactical, and he's playing the long game. Okay, this is just the first part of a very, very long game. But what I found quite interesting today, and what will be very interesting for all of the educators out there that listen to school briefs, is that not only did our minister confirm her categorical support for our Prime Minister, she also highlighted her desire to be the Minister of Education for another 9 years. So that's an announcement. I mean, I don't know about you. I haven't seen any policy announcements. Like there's a lot of criticism, and we've been part of it, where we've been criticising, like, come on, Greens, come on, Labor, tell us what your plans are for education. Have we seen anything out there around what the plans are for education on the national front?
No,
I mean, we can assume, but I don't feel like we have.
Yeah, no, we haven't. I mean, we heard that kind of sympathy for X horrendous policy of teachers being able to rough up kids. She definitely didn't walk away there. Although,
No.
I mean, in her defence, I actually don't think that is super uncommon when you've just finished your first or second term in the party and government, because I think largely speaking, you have spent 3 or 6 years pointing on policy, and the stuff that she's going to want to work on, I think will be looking to embed to be embedding the stuff that she's
And
doing
you
now.
pointed out a really interesting thing the other week. I don't know if it was on School Briefs or just when we were chatting, that actually their manifesto for education at the last election was only a fraction of what's been rolled out. Like it was very primary focused. It was very back to basics. And actually, the abolition of NCA and all of that wasn't even part of the education manifesto. So you've got to be really careful when we think about what we're voting for to assume that it's limited to what's in the manifesto is a very foolish thing, isn't it? Because it's a suggestion of the direction of travel rather than and particularly, I think, under a coalition, because when we look at what's happened in the education space, so much of it is actually down to coalition negotiations as well, isn't it? So that's something for us to really think about as we move into this election, what coalition negotiations might look like in the education space, not just those two key players.
Yeah, and I was going to make a similar point because I think while I'm a massive advocate for MMP, I think we really are starting to see a maturing of that system in this
Yeah.
country. And as we do that, it really does put into context that actually the election manifesto isn't really the guiding document that it used to
No,
be for political
no,
parties.
no, no, not at
It
all.
really is the negotiations between coalition partners and that document. And for people involved in party politics, that in and of itself is a real undermining of this idea that members are the ones that decide the direction of travel
Mm,
for political parties, because typically manifestos are designed by the members themselves.
yeah.
Uh, and they're a key tool for members being able to hold their members of parliament to account. But I think what we're seeing is actually this kind of coalition agreement. And I think it is offering political parties to be able to hide behind some bad ideas of other political parties.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting to sit back and think, okay, if we moved into the election and it was a three-party coalition on the Labour side, it would either need to be Labour, Green and Te Pāti Māori, or Labour, Green and the Opportunity Party. So it's going to actually be on us, and it'll be an interesting exercise for AEC to do as we lead up to the correct to the curriculum, to the election, to map out some of those combined, like what have we got that, at and New Zealand First and National starting to speak about in the lead up to the election, and what is the sort of the mosaic or the collation of the kind of policy ideas that we're seeing. Like the Green Party has come out with some manifesto stuff around education. Opportunity Party, not really. A little bit of high level sort of commentary from Quile at their recent event. I haven't seen, I know they're developing stuff in the background. But yeah, I think it's something for us to ought to be mindful of, as you say, as we mature into the coalition, not being under any illusion that we're voting in a National or a Labour government, or that we're voting in a National or a Labour vision for education. It's
Yeah.
so interesting, eh? It's such a freaking good argument to have a non-partisan, cross-party education agreement. Like the swings and roundabouts are so freaking damaging.
And I think the only thing that what we'll continue to see under MMP is that the prime ministership will float between Labour and National. It's
Yeah,
really difficult to see in a coalition agreement Labour or National in their respective governments agreeing to give up the top job. For the first time, we've seen New Zealand First and ACT sharing it, but I just don't think we're going to get to a point
no.
unless either National or Labour are no longer the second largest party in the country, that we will see a mix up in the prime ministership.
And,
Um,
and no, I was just thinking the other thing we've got to be mindful of is with the system reform bill, the minister has determined that the minister of the day is going to have far more power than ever before as well to conduct the swings and roundabouts.
Oh gosh, look, you would want to see that in the first 100 days of an incoming government, a reversal in what is the worst piece of education legislation that we have seen.
Yeah.
And I'm keen to talk about the curriculum and announcement
Yes.
shortly. But a couple of things. I hosted an election forum in Masterton on Thursday night. Had a
Yeah.
whale of a time. Being the MC in something like that makes you so powerful because you get to literally tell people when they can stop contributing their ideas. And there was a couple of times
Did the power
that
go
I
to your
did
head,
do that.
Liam?
Interestingly, Mike Butterick didn't do much for it. He was the national MP, and
Yeah.
he was caught up with all of the kind of election stuff, and so he never turned up. But we did have Andy Foster from New
Did he
Zealand
forget he
First.
was in New Zealand First again? He
Uh,
absolutely forgot he was in New Zealand First when he was up here talking at the PTA event.
Tell you what, he was a hard guy not to like because he's just
Yeah,
so
he's a
positive
Mr.
and
Man of the People, Wellington
yeah.
Gear dude. Yeah,
That came
yeah,
through really well. Sadly for him, we had Kieran McAnulty there, who at every possible opportunity reminded Andy every time he kind of said something inconsistent with what the government had done, was that he was there voting in favour for
yeah,
all of these ones, and I was surprised. And pleased, surprised, how often people keep returning to pay equity as an issue that they
yeah,
were really angry about the government. And so that one was quite interesting. A couple of other hot takes was that Labor agreed to a teacher aid in every classroom at the event, which was the first time I had heard that. So was particularly pleased. But the other one, picking up on your point, was both Labor, Greens, and New Zealand First were talking about this idea of an independent curriculum and assessment centre
yeah,
to help build that kind of long-term pipeline of
yeah.
curriculum that is depoliticised. And so it did start to feel like there was some kind of consensus brewing in that space.
You'd have to change that bill though. You'd have to change the Education Act.
Oh, bring it on! Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I think
significantly.
yeah, the country that has done it really well, that people are kind of holding up as a model in recent times, is Ireland,
Yeah,
and their model, as I understand it, effectively has a kind of expert panel that is kind of setting direction. But it isn't just about saying we're going to be doing this. It looks at all part of implementation. And so they've got new and emerging curriculum, and then they have got a dedicated and sustained implementation period of time so that
yeah,
employers, parents can see that kind of long term view around the types
yeah.
of knowledge, skills, capabilities we're trying to pivot the education sector towards. And it sounds really good.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's exciting. That's promising. There's got to be some silver linings out there somewhere. But yeah, interesting week for our curriculum, eh? So we had a updated science and social sciences curriculum dropped this week, and there's already been some real concerns shared out in the community.
Yeah,
What's the reaction been at your place?
when we were going through the sector reform bill and we were talking about how bad it would be to have the Minister of Education be able to politicise a curriculum,
Yeah.
we're kind of living it within like what 6 weeks of that legislation going through, because we've seen two key additions or removals. One is that climate change as an
God.
idea
Yeah.
or a concept
Or
isn't
up
introduced
to year
until
10 in
year
school,
11.
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that has been a mainstay of primary and intermediate schools for a really long time now. And we introduce it at kind of child appropriate, in kind of child appropriate ways.
Yeah.
But this whole idea that kind of, how the science is settled on how humans have contributed to climate
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have taken approaches to that,
But we've
and it does
erased it.
become
Yeah.
quite a kind of theme that gets explored during schools. That's been removed and is now only in year 11. Um, and so, I mean, we regard that as ideological, the removing of some kind of pretty settled science out of
Yeah.
the curriculum. But at the other end, it is the introduction of the Taxpayers Union into year 8 curriculum as knowledge that we need to be chapters.
Really important that I think it could be quite relevant to have taxpayers union introduced if the topic was critical literacy and really trying to unpick the dangers of the free speech union. It's interesting. Yeah. Well, and the trouble is all of this gets dropped in our lap and we get no explanation why. Like there's no context. It's all smoke and mirrors as to who's written this stuff and who has had their red pens across the final documentation. I
Yeah,
mean, how the holy hecker is the Free Speech Union appearing? How? Why?
Taxpayers Union.
Oh,
I
sorry,
mean,
that's not the
yeah,
Free Speech Union.
no, that's right. You can
That's a
consider them,
different one.
given the huge amounts of overlap and right wing people involved with both groups. But no, we are talking
Oh, they're
about
getting in trouble. Yeah.
the Taxpayers Union, the group that is picking and choosing as to the government expenditure that they want to criticise.
Yeah.
And I know that they do have a really strong foothold in local government. And I've been trying to think up what's an analogy of this type of group because they've only been around about 10 years now. And so
Yeah.
they are a relatively new lobby group. But they are there 100% for political ends. And I guess the closest comparison I can kind of compare them to would be if you started to cite an individual union in the curriculum, as if like an NZEI or PPTA got mentioned within the curriculum.
Yeah.
And the idea of doing that just sounds incredible
Just
and
bizarre.
magnificent. Yep.
Just trying to think, it just doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Well, I think it makes sense if you're trying to indoctrinate a group of young people
Yeah.
coming through the education system.
Yeah. And, Professor Elizabeth Rata comes up as the first hit when I Googled taxpayer union, and her talking about the decline of something or other. That's an interesting thing to pop up. That's the first hit,
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
right.
Hmm.
Very much so.
Says a whole lot right there. So what else has been going on? Well, we've got a very exciting week coming up because I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about a certain thing that's happening this Thursday. You have to
Uh,
leave balmy,
palmy, palmy.
balmy, palmy.
Um, you know how I've got those 4 pull-up banners to bring up?
Did you
I
get
have
them?
been at pains to find a bag large enough to put them all into because I've only got one checked-in bag. Um, and so I was getting to the point where I was going through a couple of like army surplus stores, and I was about to drop $300 on a bag large enough for them. And then it just dawned on me, why don't I just like sellotape them together all in kind of one big bag, and then the sellotape can be the basis of the bag itself. Um,
That's great. I'm glad you problem solved that. So for people who are wondering what Liam is going on about, it's our pull-up banners for the launch of the AEC report, the a vision, not the vision, a vision for education in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So for those of you who have not registered yet, if you're in Auckland and you've got some flexibility at 8:30 on Thursday morning, come and join us for a networking breakfast and a fantastic launch event where we'll be hearing from Dr. Claire Coleman, who is the person who we worked with to author the event, the report, Rose Hipkins, the fantastic Rose Hipkins, and also we've got Anthony Mackay beaming in, who is going to talk about the report in the context of the global education system and network and how it fits in with what he's seeing around the world. So that's 8:30 on Thursday. Going to be a bloomin' fantastic event, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to it because I think it really answers that call, as we've already mentioned tonight, around people wanting to actually start to be thinking and committing to much more of a long-term plan for education.
Yeah.
And I think to get people into the right space, the document itself isn't kind of paint by numbers.
No, not at all.
But what it is hoping to do is to really galvanize support around a set of common language and common ideas that we want to see run throughout it.
Yeah.
And what we think is that once you've got that, starting to answer questions around what does initial teacher education look like, or how do we go about curriculum and assessment. Once you've got that kind of common foundation,
Yeah.
answering some of those things, I think, becomes an awful lot easier. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Very keen to see the reaction. That
Yeah, and seeing if people can feel a sense of, are these the aspirations they also have for education in Aotearoa, New Zealand? So it's a pretty exciting. I feel like it's a bit of a sign that we're coming of age. How long have we been around? 2 years, 3 years, as an entity. The AEC is really starting to sort of bed in and do some really really neat work in terms of some bigger picture thinking that goes beyond just a single topic and try and think more broadly about education. So it's exciting times. And do you want to talk a little bit about the initiative that you're kicking off with the AEC Happy Hour?
Yeah, I think if we've been around 3 years, in about 6 or 7, we'll be due for a mention in the curriculum. I think that's kind of how it works.
Have we made the cut? What level do you reckon?
Um, all right, hey, very keen to talk about AUC Happier, but one of the other things that came out this morning from Erica's press conference is her commitment to being the Minister of Education for 9 years, and that got me thinking. I can't recall when we have ever had a Minister of Education do 9 years. So she would be breaking the mold
We
in
haven't
that.
had one that's done more than 3. I can't think of any real long-term ones. We'll
Yeah,
have to go back and have a Google and have a look. But yeah, what a thought, eh? What a
yeah.
thought.
Look, I don't know. I start to run out of ministers of education from the 70s, but
Yeah.
certainly none since then have come close to 9 years. But it did get me thinking that about what would actually need to happen in the next term of this government to be able to create an environment where you could actually have a single Minister of Education for 9 years. And you start to end up in some quite dark spaces around further suppression of educators' voice. Because my sense is that as we head into this election, the number of questions being asked about the direction of education is only growing. And so thinking about what that's going to look like after 6 years, it's really hard to
What's he going to
see
be
that
left to
education
reform?
is
She'll
going to
have
be
to
a huge
reform the
liability.
reforms.
Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
I don't know. I suspect we're going to be dealing with a desire to see educators moved into the state sector so that we can no longer speak out publicly,
Hmm.
which I think is going to be a really interesting test case
I think
for
boards
democracy.
days are potentially numbered as we know them. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the end of parent, that sort of role of the school board. Would be interesting to see what happens in that space. But genuinely, I'm not even being cheeky. Like the breadth of the reforms that have happened so far it's interesting to try and think what would that look like. Think of all the stuff that's happened in 2.5 years. You know, what would possibly happen in another 9 years? Like of an education under the leadership of a minister who likes to work at such, incredible pace and urgency.
Yeah,
It does make you wonder what might happen in that space.
colour.
Hmm, it's certainly worth thinking about.
I think they're going to take colour out of education. I think it'll be seen as too stimulating for kids. It'll be seen as a bit woke. Coloured pencils gone, paint's gone. Learning colours will be seen as some type of social conditioning. And so that's my hot take around
That's your hot take. That's where we're going next. You heard it here first from
the-
Liam.
Hey,
Yeah, and then the only other thing that I sort of noticed, there was 500 schools got solar panels. That they didn't get a choice, I don't believe. I think they were the schools that, for the most part, lost their furnaces. I think it was all sort of. I think the schools were told, and it certainly wasn't an application process. As man, did you get some solar panels?
can I just say that we do rag on the bad ideas of this
Yeah,
government an awful lot.
solar panels are a good
But
idea.
solar panels on schools
Yeah,
is an incredible idea.
yeah,
And
it absolutely is.
and where I want to recognise is the scale of that investment as well. That's effectively 20% of schools
Yeah,
that they are funding to get solar panels on. And
yeah,
so that
500 is a hefty number.
yeah, that's right. And so full credit to them. I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer in terms of normalising the use of solar panels, going on places that are largely open during the day.
Yeah.
Going to be great on the operating grant um,
Do you
as
know
well.
what's weird? We're a really large modern learning environment. I look at if you look at our school campus from the satellite, you'd think we're like the perfect solar panel school, and supposedly we don't work as a solar panel school. How does that operate?
I am not going to make any criticisms of the lack of transparency around the schools that did or did not get them. because I only want to celebrate that we've got 20%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I
Mm.
mean, it's more literally, we've looked into them and supposedly our building is not particularly well suited to solar panels. Bizarre.
Oh,
I don't understand. Hopefully there'll be different kinds of solar panels that work for us in the future. But yeah, no, absolutely. An absolute celebration. And, and I sort of said last week, I think there are some positive things that we're seeing happen. I still stand by the fact that I think for the most part, there's some, good stuff happening in the curriculum space in the phase 5. Yep, it's overcrowded. Yep, there's a disconnect between phase 4 and phase 5 curriculum, but credit where credit's due. It's good to see our local educators involved in leading that piece of work. So we're not all critical. We're just
I was
a bit
told
critical, maybe mostly critical.
I was told that there were senior members of the Ministry of Education curriculum team that were stoked that you said something positive about senior
I
security.
can imagine. That
Yeah.
Claire, she's usually moaning. She actually said something positive, and I mean it. I mean it. Shout out to Kat and Dr. Catherine Laws. There's some good and promising work. I still worry about what's going to happen with the assessment. I still think it's interesting that we haven't heard more about this. I mean, yep, I'm all for the curriculum coming out first. I had thought we were going to hear some more details about what the senior qualification replacement is going to look like in terms of structures and external versus internal. So, maybe that'll be something that's imminent in the next few weeks. Who knows? Stand by. Watch
Hey,
the space.
can I just touch on AEC Happy Hour?
Yes.
Cool. So this idea, I think, is a real cool one. And it comes from the idea that what we're not seeing enough within the profession is bringing people together for professional critique about where we're going and what's going on. And we wanted to combine that with a casual drink. And so the plan is to monthly create a space for educators that want to come together to talk about the issues of the day. There's going to be no action plans created as a result. It is literally educators coming together in small groups, talking about what is going on. And so, as we head into each one, is the plan is to have a page of kind of discussion prompts, which will capture some of the kind of hot issues of the day. And then we are meeting online. People are going to be working in kind of groups of 10 to 15.
Going to have virtual breakout rooms.
Yep. And feel free to come along if you want to listen to the discussion, if you want to be a part of the discussion, or even if you're not sure. They're going to be small group conversations. They're going to be expertly facilitated. And we're really looking forward to creating a space for people to talk about what is on top for them. I think the model is going to get tweaked over time. But the actual vision is to see these taking place face to face around the country. But like all things in this day and age, starting online, I think is cool. But I think it speaks to AEC's passion to want to create a platform for educators to come together and talk about what's going
Yeah.
on. So watch the space. In the last week, there has been an event invite come out through our Substack. Feel free to jump on there and sign up, pop along and see if it's your cup of tea.
Yeah, and actually, I reckon now would be a good time. We've talked offline about potentially changing the platform on which we record these podcasts, so we can get a bit fancier and have like things in the background and visuals that pop up. And what I'd actually love to understand is what our listeners value. Like, do you actually like the incredibly unpolished candor of myself and Liam just talking about what's happening in the week that was, or do you think there would be value to be added to have visuals, to have have a backdrop? Do we need to lift our game? Are we a bit shabby? Not our appearance. Don't judge us on our appearance. But like, is there a need for us to zhuzh this up, or are people actually quite happy with the organic conversational style that is School Brief? So if you're still listening at this point, drop a comment below and let us know our direction of travel. Are we on the money in terms of informal conversation and us just sort of gas bagging for about half an hour every week? Or would you like us to get a bit more big, hairy network and have fancy visuals and more guests and those sort of things? So feedback is always welcome, eh, Liam?
Very much so. What's on top for you this week, Claire?
I think we are heading into, what is it, week 5? I think I got my weeks wrong last week because I was so confused that we're already nearly halfway through the term. Week 5 is quite a big one for me. I'm actually heading down to Wellington. I'm doing some work with PPTA as part of the Tira Tira Anō writing group. I have had the absolute privilege of conducting a whole lot of case studies. So I've been looking at 6 secondary schools around the country and how they have used the flexibility of NCEA to deliver some really engaging programs. And the point of my chapter is looking at what the impact of the new secondary qualifications might be in this space. So considering what we might be losing in terms of that loss of flexibility in NCEA, because what I have seen, my biggest takeaway is that flexibility is doing the equity work in NCA, and actually flexibility is what actually enables our qualification to produce more equitable outcomes. And I'm still convinced we're not doing enough modelling and enough work in terms of our thinking before we jump into new reforms, because I think that's going to be the biggest cost of NZCE and NZACE.
Well said. Hey, let's wrap it up there. Hope you have a good week. I'll catch you Thursday for the launch.
Absolutely. Have a fantastic week 5, everyone. Ka kite.